This is The Market Has Spoken with Mark Jones
and Hersh.
In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the D's in real estate, the life events that make people want to buy or sell no matter what the interest rate is, because that's what we're dealing with, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we go so deep into some of these categories and how to run your business off of it. So stick around and find out what exactly it is that you need to do to excel in the category that you want to help.
And how to have business in a challenging interest rate environment.
Yeah. So what were you going to tell me?
So what I was going to tell you is I took all of the D's, the 10 D's, and I put it into ChatGPT and I had it create a list of strategies to get in front of Mets, people in your PCSOI that are experiencing those life events or may be experiencing them. So for diapers, it's around, baby showers and, family events and things like that. But I also asked it to give me 3 strategies for unmets around those things as well. So it did. And I have a list here of, 60 different tactics to get in front of people that are experiencing life events that would necessitate someone to buy or sell real estate.
That is awesome. So it sounds like we're about to go through a masterclass of how to get in front of people that you have not met that may be experiencing a life event requiring them to either buy or sell or both.
You're way overselling it, but sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah. So first, let's define the D's. What are the D's of real estate?
So glad you asked me that, Hersh, and that's why I have notes. So the D's as I defined them was diapers, people having a baby or having a second baby, or third, fourth, fifth.
Yep.
Diplomas, high school graduation.
Okay.
And maybe college graduation as well.
Sure.
Diamonds, engagements, debt or distress, financial distress. Divorce usually means people need to get out of the same cohabitated location. Disability or disease. So changes in health can sometimes necessitate a need to get a new place to live, whether it's I injured my knee and I need to be on one story now, or I need a wheelchair accessible home now, whatever it is. Death. Obviously, when someone dies and they own real estate, downsizing. And people's final child goes off to college. They often look around and go, we don't really need 4 bedrooms anymore. We should be in a little more walkable area where we can enjoy the city and have our own life again as parents. Now that we've given up 18 plus years to be parents and to not have a life. Right. And then distance, relocating, right? Going to a new city because of your job, because of school, because of some other opportunity. Sometimes it's also, a family member that you're moving for so you can take care of that family.
Absolutely.
Which might also require a new home. And then diversification. Most people invest in their primary residence, but don't think to go beyond that, right? As you know, you had to do a lot of education around this. So helping people understand that all of their money in the stock market's probably not a good idea. Having some in their primary residence is great. And there's other opportunities in real estate beyond that to help them diversify their portfolio. So those are the 10 Ds, the way I see them. I've seen lists of 4 Ds, 5, 6 Ds. I came up with 10. Yeah.
And as you're telling us about the Ds, I can think of a client for each one of those Ds that I've either helped or about to help that is in my world. Which goes back to what you proved, which is chances are you either know someone or you're about to meet someone that is going through one of these life circumstances.
And this is a good exercise just to go through, right? Just ask yourself, who do I know that's about to have a child, about to have a second child? Because those 2 things have a big impact on your space.
Absolutely.
Right. So especially that second child, it's like, oh my God, when we had our first child, everything exploded and we had all this stuff that we didn't have before. Now we're having the second child, which means more stuff is coming. Oh my God, we don't have enough space for it. Right. So like that additional child can be just as much of a impetus for someone to get a new space as the first one.
Absolutely. And you know what's funny?
What's that?
A baby is about this big, yet the amount of space they take up is about 300 to 400 square feet. Not kidding.
That's that is wild. And you would know. You've got 2 of them.
I've had 2 of them, and they have their stuff that they don't come with, but we end up buying.
Right.
So if you're aware of those cues, you can start thinking ahead. Like, I know it about 6 months ahead of when you're going to realize that that's what you're going to do.
Right.
So just be mindful of that. So
yeah.
Awesome. Let's go to the first one, diapers.
So diapers. So again, birth of a child, birth of a second child, there's just, like you said, exponential amount of stuff that comes into your life when you have kids. If you know someone, let's say they were married a year ago or 2 years ago, and they're starting to we're starting to think about having a baby or, planning our family, getting ready to do that. Now's a good time to talk to them about space. Because if they're in a 2-bedroom condo, space is about to be overrun.
Yes.
Having that conversation with anyone in your sphere is probably a good idea.
And it's a little early to have this particular conversation, but schools are also going to be important, in 3 to 4 to 5 years, depending on when you're starting to have this conversation. And so space is equally as important as the school district that their kids are going to go to elementary school in.
That is a great point, because most single people buy a home based on their lifestyle and convenience. They're not thinking about schools. Even young married couples may not yet be thinking about schools. It's when they get pregnant that all of a sudden the reality hits, and it's like, oh gosh, we need to start thinking about this. Even if it's not until the child is 2-3 years old, they want to start thinking about it now, because 2 or 3 years from now, they may not be able to afford to live in a neighborhood where they can now get in.
Yeah, absolutely. And private education, you could argue that, hey, Montessori schools, daycares, things like that, they work for the first few years, but there is going to come a time where, what is it? Is it better to continue paying for private education or roll that into a larger mortgage, which is going to give you the space and a free public education in a really good elementary or middle or whatever school it is, right? And so these are the conversations. The question that you should be asking is, well, let's talk about what this looks like. What are you planning? So
does a Montessori education appreciate over time?
It's yet to be proven. I appreciate the Montessori education. We have our child in there right now. Vera's going to go as well.
It pays dividends, but not necessarily financial.
Exactly. It's always going to be a cost, and it's always going to be a liability if we're thinking about it that way. Right. So would I trade off the tuition payment for a larger home in an elementary school that I'd be comfortable putting them into? Absolutely. Right. Because those are the conversations we're having now, which is, what should we do? How can we parlay the expenses that we have every single month to be able to do what we want to do? So at what point did you start having conversations before you had kids? At what point did you start having conversations about a new space? So the first place we bought was when Reshma was pregnant. Okay. Didn't care about schools at all. It was just, what can we afford? We're I think 2.5 years married at that time. And you were renting before that? We were renting, moved to Georgia. And having realized what I paid in rent made me furious. And I said, I'm never doing that again. Right. So we bought a place, whatever we could afford. It's a 3-bed, 2.5-bath, smaller, new construction. Right. And it was only after RF came around that we realized we don't have the space that we thought we had in a 2.5, 1,500 square foot, townhome at the time. And we said, we need more space. That's amazing that two people in that space feels like you don't have enough stuff to fill it. Right. And once the baby's there, you're bursting at the seams. Sure. And it's also the layout, right? Like a 1,500 square foot, 1-level home lives very different than a 2-story, 1,500 square foot home. So the layout on the floor plan matters. But for us, it was, we need something slightly bigger that lives a little bigger. Gotcha. Right. And within the first, we were there for 11 months. I think we went under contract on our second place at month 9 because that's how long it took us to realize this is working. We need more. And thankfully, we intended to keep that property as a rental property anyway. Right. So it sort of worked in our favor. But what if you're not having that conversation on the front end? Now it's an expensive, I've got to sell to take some equity out and put it into our next place. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of conversations that can be had around this. And if you are an agent who's in your 30s and even early 40s, because people are having babies later these days, then you probably have a lot of people in your sphere that are about the same age. Sure. Probably a great time to be having these conversations before they need it. So you can, be ready to help them when they are ready. Yeah. And on the last episode, we talked about investments and things like that.
Mhm.
If your folks are in a position to keep the property they have and just make it a rental property, even better, because you're making investors for the long term. And once they get the bug, they will likely buy once every 2, 3, 4 years, however long that they can do that in. So
Right.
you don't always have to get a listing and a buy side each time.
Right.
Just be prepared to say, hey, are you able to keep this?
Yeah. I mean, that should be the first question you ask any listing is, can you help me understand why you're not keeping this and renting it out?
Yeah.
Right. So that you have a good understanding of their motivation.
Sure.
Because that's going to really help inform the other decisions that they make.
Absolutely.
So the next one's diplomas. And I think these two different ways, high school diplomas and college degrees.
Yep.
Right. So high school diploma means someone's probably going to college or moving away,
Sure.
something. So there's probably a need for housing.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to be going to a 4-year plus institution of higher learning, you're going to be paying rent or room and board at a dorm. So why not take that money and put it into a home that can be appreciating over that same period of time? And if you can get a single family home, they can have your kid can have their friends move in and pay them rent so that they're living for free and the mortgage is being paid.
Yeah.
So you're building equity over that 4-year period. Again, approximately, 4% per year on average, and start building their wealth from the day they step into college.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think it makes the most sense when you can buy something in the city that they're going into, buy something. They may not be able to live in that property the first year. That's okay. You can rent it out to college students. Come next year, your child can move in and they can bring in their friends to, again, keep the payment down and maybe even make you some money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this particular college property will likely make you money, but it's not about making you money. It's about saving you the room and board, which is a nice way to say rent, for a probably 400, 500 square foot dorm room.
Right.
If that. So that's how you want to think of it that way.
For sure. And then when people are graduating college, oftentimes they move because of a job.
Yep.
So that might necessitate a conversation about real estate. And the one thing I want to kind of back up here and talk about is not all life event needs are going to necessitate a need for real estate in your city. So this is where it's important to have connections all over the country, or the ability to find the people who sell in that city and are trustworthy and they have a good track record, and be able to connect with them quickly so that you can make referrals.
Yeah.
Because that's the way you can help your clients at the highest level, is by connecting them with a real estate professional that can best serve their needs, whether it's in your city or not.
Absolutely.
So someone's graduating from college, the first question is, where are they going to be after this?
Yeah.
What's their next step?
Yep.
Right? If they're going to stay in Atlanta, great. That's awesome. You can help them.
Yeah.
If they're going to be moving, where are they moving to? Great. I know some really great real estate professionals there, and they may not be able to buy right away without having a track record of income, but they might also be able to buy something with a cosigner from a parent.
Yep.
So don't in your mind close off opportunities because you've decided that that's not a possibility for them.
And a fun fact, we bought our first place that I mentioned earlier within, I want to say 4 or 5 months from Rushmore graduating nursing school, because lenders are able to take school as quote unquote work history, right? So she didn't have 2 years of work history. It was just, hey, I now have a license to nurse, because she's a former, or I guess still licensed nurse.
Yep.
And so they use that ability to earn income based on her having a license to qualify her for a mortgage.
Wow.
So it works. And then the second thing I think of too, Mark, when someone gets a degree and they go to whatever city that they're going to, in the back of my mind, because I went through this, it's a very high likelihood that the parents are likely moving there soon to be closer to kids, potentially depending on how close they are and everything, right?
Yeah, it's very possible.
So it could be that you're going to help a child, but it could also be that you're going to help the parents list their house wherever they are and then come closer to wherever their kids are. And for us, there's a high likelihood that people are moving to the city as opposed to moving away from the city. So that could mean that you have more buyers than listings.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And the biggest point to understand is you can help people all over the country Doesn't matter where. So I think in Atlanta, we tend to think of like, well, I don't really know anyone else in Atlanta that's doing X, Y, Z. But you know people all over the country.
Yeah.
Like I have brothers that live in Connecticut. I have 3 older brothers. They all live in Connecticut, different parts of Connecticut. So I have resources in those parts of Connecticut in case they need a qualified, trusted real estate professional.
And this is a side note, but where do you meet people like that?
So for me, it's family reunion and mega camp, sort of KW conventions, right? Where people from all over the country are all in one place and all over the world. But also, like, we have a tool to do that in Command. We can go into the referrals applet inside of our CRM, our technology platform, and drill down on any city, and you can see. You can sort by buy sides, list sides. You can see who's sold the most. You can keep scrolling because you don't want the big team. You want to find the first individual that sells a lot in that area. So it gives you the ability to, you can see their picture. You can see what languages they speak. So if you need someone that speaks a foreign language, you can see whether they're more of a buyer or listing agent or if they do both. So it gives you an idea of the level of accomplishment professionally they have, so you can connect them with someone that you think would be good for them, because no one knows your clients like you do. Right? I've had clients that I know would not be good if I gave them to a team and then they got handed off to someone on that team. They would want to be with the person I introduced them to. Other people are like, I don't care, just as long as you think they're good, I'm good. So it's if you have to know your client and be able to ask your client questions, what they're interested in, what they're looking for, so you can match them up properly.
Absolutely. And another way, so not only are conventions and conferences great to meet people that are like-minded, it's also the communities that you belong to, right? So part of KW Wealth is, if someone is thinking about investment, I'm going to the wealth community, because those people understand the conversations that my client's going to need to have, right? So just like what you said, which is pair them up with someone that is here, has a higher likelihood to help them succeed, because at the end of the day, you're going to get a referral check, and you only get it if whoever you introduce them to,
it works out.
Closes, right? So,
well, to that end, I'm part of the KW Rainbow Network. It's the LGBT group within KW, and we all have clients that want to work with people like them. So my LGBT clients generally would like to work with an LGBT person, or at least someone that's LGBT friendly, right? And understands their needs and their concerns and safety concerns and things like that. So being able to connect them with someone that's familiar with their life experience just makes the transition easier.
Absolutely.
So like those are communities that you can lean on as well.
And we have a lot of them within KW that you can either belong to or refer people to within those communities as well.
And there are a lot outside of KW, right? There's NAREP, is the National Association for Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. There's the LGBT Alliance, which is the cross-industry LGBT group. Like there's so many different groups from a DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion perspective. And there are also designations through the NAR system. You could find someone else who is a certified negotiating expert. Whatever designation you have, there are people in your community that have that designation. Those are people to reach out to, because they have the same kind of training and interest that you have.
Absolutely.
So the next one I have on my list is debt and distress. And this is actually starting to become a thing right now. Not giant, not like 2008, 2009. But there are a lot of people who have a high level of debt. And when that consumer debt is now between 26 and 29% on their credit card, that can create a lot of financial stress. Sometimes the best thing people can do is sell their home to get the equity out of that to pay off their debt and start fresh. Maybe downsize, get a smaller place, or maybe take a breather, rent for a minute, and then buy again. But I think financial distress is always something that can attach itself to real estate. So whether it's someone who's stressing now or that might have stress, like someone that is in an industry that's laying off a lot of people, stay in touch with them. Make sure that you're there should they need the help.
Absolutely. And that help can go, whether it's real estate related or, hey, you know what, this person is great at X. Let me connect them to this person who can potentially land them a job, right?
Right.
You do things like that for people, they're not going to forget you.
Right. And it's being intentional about these life events so that you can be helpful regardless of what that help looks like, because some of it's going to end up being real estate business. Right?
Sure.
You're going to benefit regardless. Just be there to help people.
Absolutely.
And come from contribution, come from a place of wanting to make sure that all of your people are taken care of. And then the money takes care of itself.
Absolutely.
I really believe that.
Yeah. And you know, there's another type of distress too, which you're unlikely to find unless you're looking for it, and that's property distress. But people that are in financial distress and have property distress, there's a few solutions for them, right?
For sure.
And so you just have to be able to help them in the best way they can, which is not necessarily, hey, I'm going to do all these things to fix my house before I sell it. I need to be able to find someone that can buy it in as-is condition, right?
Right.
And so whether it's investors or you know, different ability that you have to find them that's what you're going to want. So
we actually have an agent in our office who just finished renovating a home he bought like that. It was actually a referral from one of his past clients. He went to the listing appointment. They did a pre-listing inspection and found all sorts of structural issues.
Oh boy.
A lot of things that were going to be scary to most buyers. They didn't have the money to fix it. And our agent was like, this doesn't scare me because I understand what this structural issue is and how to fix it, but it's going to freak out the majority of home buyers. But the sellers didn't have the means to be able to do that. He talked to them and said, hey, I'm considering this. Would this be something you'd want to talk to me about, me actually buying it? Because he'd already told them what it would sell for on the open market.
Sure.
You know, when he backed out his commission because he didn't want to take commission, pay taxes on it, and then do the deal. So he backed out his commission. He was able to purchase the property, renovate it, and do the work it needed. Now, I like to say he saved that home. Like we all see homes that we're like, oh, I hope someone saves that. This was a home that needed to be saved, and it's an amazing home and on a great piece of property. But because he thought outside the box and didn't just think about listing the home and thought to ask them, would you be open-minded to having a conversation about me actually buying it now that we've talked about, like, this is what it'll sell for if you do X, Y, and Z. This is what it'll sell for as is. And then here's what I can do for you if I buy it. So then he was able to pick up a great property for himself and create a win for the client as well.
And don't you think they're happier for a less stressful sale with an agent who knows what they're doing?
For sure. And they didn't have to get their house ready, put it on the market. All the
it's
things,
as is.
So all the things that make selling your house to a cash buyer attractive, the same rules apply.
Huge win for both sides.
For sure. The next one on my list is divorce.
Okay. Wait. We can't get divorced without giving a diamond first.
Did we not talk about diamonds?
I don't think we talked about
we skipped diamonds. Okay, sorry about that. Let's not do divorce before diamonds. That's a terrible order to do things in.
But you can give diamonds after divorces.
I guess, you're very kind and remain in a good space with your ex. But diamonds, I mean, obviously, when a couple is getting together, it typically means they're going to consolidate households. Whether that's two renters becoming a homeowning couple, or two homeowners selling their individual homes, buying one together, or just one moving in with the other. Regardless, as an agent, you have resources like movers, people who can help get things done at the house they're moving out of if they have to repaint because the landlord said they had to repaint before they move out, things like that. So no matter what it is, what the situation is with the people that are getting married, you can help them. So being in touch with that, understanding when people are on a trajectory to getting together in a marriage situation is important. So just staying in touch with your people, right?
And it could be something as simple as, so when we bought, I used all of my old furniture that I bought as a bachelor, which
I want to see pictures of that.
Isn't the best furniture for a family.
Right.
But we used it for as long as we could until we said, okay, this doesn't work anymore. And at that point, it's something as simple as, well, where should I go to get furniture? I bought it online. It got delivered, right? Because that's the world that we live in now. Simple things like that can make a huge difference, especially when they're consolidating, because I use my own pots and pans, which were not good pots and pans. Same furniture, right? Same everything to the point where we're now having to go furnish an entire home piece by piece. So if that's what they need, then help them with that, right? And again, it'll come back to you in the long run because you were there to help them with whatever problem that came up.
By the way, you don't have to be invited to the wedding to celebrate and give them a gift.
Absolutely.
Just because sometimes we're just not that close with people at that phase, right? But that doesn't mean we can't go, oh, they got married. I saw it on Facebook. I'm going to send them a little something. Yeah. It doesn't have to be big, just an acknowledgement, right?
Absolutely.
It goes a long way towards building your relationship with them. Yeah. So maybe when it's time for the anniversary party, you'll be invited.
Yeah. And I like to think, celebrate all the little wins.
For sure.
Anything that you see on social media, like, oh, that's a big moment. Mm-hmm. Just a handwritten note card will sometimes be something that changes their mood entirely. That can go a long way too.
So now that we've talked about diamonds, now can we talk about divorce?
We sure can talk about divorce.
Okay, good. My favorite. Not really. If anyone's ever dealt with a couple going through a divorce as their real estate agent, it can be stressful.
It is.
It can be challenging. You can be navigating extreme emotions for a lot of the time. Yeah. Sometimes divorces are amicable and everyone's cool. And other times it's not, right? So there are designations to get certified to work with divorce and people going through divorce. So that's something that's available. If it's something you're interested in, if you're good at handling conflict and you can let it roll off your back and not bring it home with you, look into that. Yeah. If you're going to bring it home with you, don't do it. Just don't. If you're an empath and you're going to go on a roller coaster ride with your clients, don't work with those people. Yeah. However, those people typically have one home that they need to sell and two homes they need to acquire. Again, could be some combination of rentals and purchase and sale, but regardless, you can help them. So it's a really good opportunity. And you can be there at a time when someone might actually just need a break from life, and going out with you as an agent looking at homes may end up being like a really great release for them. Yeah. It's a moment they don't have to think about their whole life being turned upside down.
Absolutely. And for most people, they're likely going to help their friends that are going through a situation like that, right? Friends or family. And that's going to be your true test to figure out, like, how am I doing? And it's a whole lot harder to help people than to help people you don't know go through that transition, because there's no emotions, right?
Right.
So be that as it may, but that's the test that lets you determine, is this for me? And if it is, go get the designations and help people, because that is when they need you the most.
For sure. I mean, people make so many emotional decisions, which, they say you're never supposed to make big decisions when you're emotional. When you're going through a divorce, you're on a giant roller coaster ride, and people are making huge life decisions. Yeah. So what better way to help people than to be by their side as they go through these big life transitions? Yeah. So I think it's a great opportunity. And if you help them through that, you're going to be around forever.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So the next one, not pleasant. So we're sort of starting to get to the less than pleasant parts of this, because we've talked about divorce. Now we're going to talk about disability and disease, right? People, it happens.
Life happens.
Life happens. By the way, we all die. So when we get to death, we'll talk about that, but we all do die. We all will get sick. Yep. Some of us will get sick to the point that it changes the way we operate in the world. Yeah. It changes how we walk through our home. It changes how we get dressed in the morning. Yep. It changes whether or not you can do it on your own or not. Yep. So I think about Christina Applegate, like going from like super vibrant, athletic, she's a dancer, and then she gets MS. Like in a very short period of time, goes from totally self-sufficient, being a mom, doing all the things, and then having to be dependent on other people just to get around. That's a huge thing. And if your home isn't set up to have a live-in caretaker, that might necessitate a need to change where you live. No.
And most homes are not set up for that type of living situation.
Having an in-law apartment, ADU, marriage house apartment, those kinds of situations end up being really great for, having an au pair, having a live-in nanny, having a live-in caretaker that also obviously needs their own space. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. So those types of things just know, let's hope that that doesn't happen to too many people in our worlds. When it happens, let's be there for people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which brings me to death.
You said we die, Mark. Do we have to?
We have to. I love when people say, if I die, this is how I want to go.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's
will.
when you die, and you can have a preference on how you'd like to go. We don't get to dictate that typically. So, but it is something that's going to happen to all of us.
Sure.
Know that it's going to happen to the people in your sphere, your past clients, your sphere of influence, friends, colleagues, family, neighbors. Someone in your life is going to lose someone.
Yeah.
And when they do, oftentimes there's a property involved. So knowing how to navigate probate, knowing how to help them through that time is super important. And anyone who's ever dealt with a home in probate, particularly if there are multiple siblings or multiple family members that own the home, it can be a challenge.
Yeah.
So another opportunity for you to shine as a professional.
Sure.
And another potentially fraught road to walk down as you help people through yet another super emotional time in their life.
And one way to get ahead of that, right, for your Mets, is to start having the conversation earlier, right? Start having the conversation now that, if you're, you mentioned 30 something year old in the real estate business, you have people that have older parents.
Correct.
You can start doing things to set up for your estate or set up for your trust or will or whatever it is, so that they don't likely have to go through a difficult situation when all they want to do is get rid of the property that their loved one lived in.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't want to have to go worry about attorneys and people signing off and people potentially having claims to the property.
Right.
Just if you do it right when you have the ability to, it's going to make a whole world of difference. So be proactive again in this category.
And if you don't have a good resource for estate planning, you should get to know an attorney that does wills and estate planning and preferably trusts as well. And understands all of that at a high level, so that you can be the connector between your clients and that professional that can help them get set up so that when the inevitable happens, everything happens the way that person wishes it to happen. So it's super important to have those connections. And guess what, guys? Attorneys of all sorts, divorce attorneys, family planning attorneys, estate attorneys, all of these attorneys are potential sources of business because they work with people who are going through all these life events. So understanding that and understanding, hey, we can probably send each other business. It's probably a good aha to have. So from death, it doesn't really get worse than that. So we're going to go start moving back up on the happiness scale, and we're going to go to downsizing. So, which is, it can be a little bit sad, I guess, when your last kid goes to college, but also kind of a reinvigorating time because, hey, we get to have our own life again. So they may not know what it feels like to have that because it's been so long, but this is the first time in, probably 22 plus years that they've been able to go out to dinner and not think about anyone else's needs, but their own. Right. So that's a great time in life where people tend to make life changes around where they live because now they get to live out the rest of their lives the way they want to.
Yeah. And they may still want a couple extra bedrooms for when family comes to visit. But in most cases, they're going to walk out with a pretty large sum of money that they get to go blow. Essentially, you've now earned the ability to go on whatever vacation you want to, go do whatever, go buy a Corvette if you want to, right? Whatever it is.
Have your midlife crisis. It's okay.
So it's a happy time for most people going through this, even though it's a bit sad, like, oh, kids are gone, right?
Yeah.
But there's better things that you're about to go do as well. So
a lot of people, when the condos in downtown Decatur were being built, a lot of the people that were buying there were downsizing. They were empty nesters. They were like, I want to be in this really great walkable area. I don't have to worry about yard and schools and all the things. Like, I can just go and be an adult and have fun. And they're close to restaurants, so they could have more, because they also have more disposable income at that point, right?
They are the largest spending group of people. Right.
So
because they've worked for it their whole life. So
yeah, and they no longer, their kids are now self-sufficient, hopefully, and they now have the money that they were using to help support those kids to actually spend on themselves.
Yeah.
Downsizing, great life event to be around people that are having that so that you can help them.
Yeah.
Distance, relocating. Again, you have someone in your sphere that lives here in Atlanta. They're relocating to Colorado. Cool. We're in Colorado. Do you have a real estate agent there that you know, like, and trust already?
Yeah.
You don't? Perfect. I have access to some of the best real estate agents in that area. Let me make a connection for you.
Yeah.
So I can go on, find 3 people that I think will mesh with my, I'll pre-interview them.
Sure.
I think their personalities will mesh with my client's personality, and I'll make introductions. And whichever one they go with, I'm going to get a referral fee. So, and by the way, be transparent about it. Be like, look, they'll pay me a referral fee. So, I'm going to interview them and make sure that they're the right people for you.
Sure.
I'm going to be earning that because I'm going to make sure you have a good person.
And I, as a consumer, would be so thrilled for you to tell me, wait, you're going to interview them and you're going to make sure they're the right fit for me.
Right.
Yeah. Why don't you should get a commission check for that. Right. So it's in the interest of both parties in that case.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, who do you think is going to ask better questions to determine if this person knows what they're talking about?
Yeah.
Us or the average consumer, right? Who's moved 3 to 6 times in their lifetime. So we do this every day. We talk to people every day, and we know what real estate agents are supposed to know.
Sure.
And we can also access their production.
Absolutely.
We can see exactly what they do. We'll read the reviews. We'll do all the front end work. And then we'll also look at personality. Yeah. Because let's face it, if it's not a good personality match, it's not going to get to closing. Might as well find them the right person. And we've all had a client here and there that might be somewhat challenging, right? So when you have one of those challenging
I've never
friends,
had one.
No, never. No one in this room.
Yeah, no one in this room.
But other people. when other people have those challenging friends that they know it's going to take a special type of person that's got the patience of a saint, that can be the conversation. Yeah. Right. And you can find them someone that's like, yeah, this is who I go to when I have a client like that. Yeah. They're amazing. So I can think of someone in our office. Yeah. I have referred her some of the most difficult personalities, and she just handles them. And she will put up with more than I will any day. Yeah. And she's good at it. So anyway, there are people out there that's their superpower. Sure. Find one of those for your difficult friends. Yeah. Diversification is the last one. This is really, I would say, in your wheelhouse. It's investing, right? Looking at real estate as something more than just your primary residence. Yeah. And I think we talked a couple of shows ago, maybe it was the last show, about investing and all of the different times in a person's life when it makes sense for them to be looking at real estate as an investment. I feel like it's one of those things that, again, we should be talking to everyone about. Yeah.
So I have a client actually closing Friday on 2 properties, technically 2 townhomes, but they're together, so you can call it a duplex, I guess. And this is going to be their 5th and 6th properties, if I'm not mistaken. They've bought a couple across the country in Texas and I believe Arizona. This is the first time in Georgia, but they believe in the market and they said, hey, I need to diversify my income. All of their down payment is coming from the sale of stocks.
Wow.
So that's a true definition of diversification.
For sure.
When you have a high income, you likely have to shelter your income from taxes. The way to do that is by going to 401ks and all the tax deferred accounts. Well, now that account has grown so much that it makes sense for them to pay a penalty and or taxes, whichever applies in their scenario, to then go put it in real estate.
Right. Or they could have a self-directed IRA. Yeah. Or that they can actually use the funds from that IRA, right, to invest in real estate. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, scenarios where you can find a way to diversify. For this particular client, it was just as easy as, I believe that I want real estate to do something for me long term. I'm going to buy as much as I can right now.
That's amazing.
And these properties are not going to cash flow because we understand that today's market is a little bit different, especially in Atlanta. With the higher interest rates, you might not cash flow everything, but they understand that in 5 years from now, it is going to be worth a whole lot more than it is today.
I was speaking with one of our agents the other day who walked in and introduced me to his client who had just bought his third investment property. And he was saying, my whole thing is the World Cup's going to be here in a couple of years. He said, I think real estate's going to just keep going up. And then after that, it's going to go crazy. And it reminded me of me moving to Atlanta in 1992 because the Olympics were going to be here in 1996. And I knew that the city was going to grow. There was going to be a lot of activity. When big major events happen like that, it has an effect because it brings so many visitors to a city that it's like a big commercial for the city. Right. So, unfortunately, during the Olympics, we had a bombing. So I don't know what a great commercial it was. Hey, it only destroyed part of the Other Side Lounge. I always drive down Piedmont now and I think, oh, that's where the Other Side Lounge used to be. There's apartments now. But I digress. But those big events where like World Cup is huge, like the number of people from all over the world coming to Atlanta for the first time and experiencing Atlanta. Real estate is such a topic of interest to most people these days, thanks to the internet and HGTV. It seems like no matter where you go, whatever city you go to, you automatically look at real estate.
Of course.
Right? So I think that's going to be happening a lot. So I think this guy, my agent's client, is onto something. Like, he's like, yep, this is going to be big for Atlanta. For sure.
And there's a number of events that I would put on sort of a pedestal, right? World Cup being one of them, but there are even smaller events, right? So Super Bowl coming to town, we've had that. Olympics, we've had that. World Cup is literally the biggest sport in the world for everyone. People are going to come from everywhere, see Atlanta in the light that it is, just like you said. And we're the number one city where people are moving to already. So this is gas on the fire, sort of, that, hey, if you buy today, I don't think you can go wrong for the next decade is my prediction.
And you know me, I think anything that has guys dressed up in a uniform and has a ball, it's all sports ball to me. But I do know that when you bring worldwide exposure to a city, it creates something special.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's about to happen again. So the people who weren't alive in 96 to come to the Olympics are going to come to the World Cup. And I think that's going to be a whole new generation of people discovering Atlanta. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity. So investing in Atlanta, I don't see a downside. Long term, it is a great move.
Is that all of them?
That's the list of 10. Yeah.
That's the list of 10. Okay. So how are we doing on time? We got some time?
10. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Let me check.
Yeah. 3:08.
Yeah, I'm good till 3:30.
Okay. Do you want to get into
so
how to implement?
So here's what I would recommend you do with this list of Ds. Right? Go to your friend ChatGPT and give it the list of the 10 life events, the Ds, influence people's need to buy or sell a home. And ask it to give you 3 strategies that will get you in front of people who are about to go through that particular life event. 3 for people that or past clients in your sphere of influence, which is your neighbors, friends, family, colleagues, past coworkers, and have a strategy for that, for each one of those 10. And then have 3 strategies for each one of the 10 for people you've not yet met, unmets, in other words, strangers, people, to get those people into your sphere, into your database. How do you get in front of new parents who are about to have a child that you haven't met yet? So I did this, and I'll just give you just a few examples, but it talked about doing a partnership with a baby store and collaborating with a baby store to leave brochures or host informational sessions on finding the perfect family home. I can see just giving away like a really nice stroller. Right. Some of those strollers are pretty expensive.
Absolutely.
And
like $1,000.
There's a couple that are like the Cadillac of strollers. Like doing that. Guess what? You're going to get a lot of people entering registering that want that. So, do you think those people might be having a baby soon? Yes.
Need more space? Yes.
Right. So just little things like that. Creating Facebook group for new parents in your area. Yep. The Grant Park New Parents Group, that kind of thing. Creating some sort of social media group around that. Like there's so many different ways you can do that. Use ChatGPT to give you ideas, and when it's giving you 3 ideas, say, now give me 3 more. Now give me 3 more. It'll keep giving you ideas. And sometimes you just have to ask it a lot.
Sure.
And maybe refine what you're asking. You might want to say, okay, now give me 3 more ideas that don't involve social media. Sure. Or now give me 3 ideas that don't involve small businesses. And it'll do it.
Yeah.
So use AI, going back to last week's episode, use AI to help you capitalize on finding people going through the D's. AID, aid. You're helping people, right? There you go.
And I would even say start with 1, right? Because these 10, and you might have helped clients across each one of these D's, but start with the one that you enjoyed working with.
Yeah.
If helping people that are going through a death situation scares you and that's not your strong suit, don't do that. Find the one that makes the most sense and then do what Mark said, because that will tell you exactly how to get in touch with people that need your help.
Yep. And then create a strategy around that, which by the way, ChatGPT will also do. You pick that one thing, a giveaway, put that in ChatGPT. I want to do a giveaway. The goal is to attract, expectant parents in the Metro Atlanta area. Write out a strategy for me to get as many people as possible to register into the drawing, and it'll give it to you. So take advantage of technology where it's at, because this is where we say agents won't be replaced by AI. Agents will be replaced by agents who use AI. So it's the agents who are using it as leverage that are going to have a leg up.
Absolutely.
So again, go watch our last week's episode and dig into ChatGPT 4.0 and dig into AI, because it will make you a better agent.
Absolutely.
And it'll free you up and allow you to be more human more often with the people you know, so that you can leave all the brain work that you don't have to do to AI.
Agreed. Well, this has been a deep dive into the D's of real estate. There's 10 of them, and how to use them to find clients that you enjoy working with the most.
Don't forget, at the end of the day, you're just there to add value and help people. But if you're intentional about who you're trying to help inside of your sphere and having a strategy around that, then it's also going to pay dividends for your business.
Agreed.
All right. Well, that's all for this week. Join us next week when we actually do a deep dive on the strategies that you can use to take advantage of some of these life events and help your clients and get you more business. I'm Mark Jones.
And I'm Hersh.
And this is The Market Has Spoken.
See you next week.
See you.